I'm Edward Trapunaki, and I'm pleased to present the 2020 Canadian Jewish Literary Award to Abraham Boyarsky for his novel, Through Shadows Slow. Through Shadows Slow is a love story about memory and forgiveness. Set after the Holocaust, Daniel, a survivor of the Nazi prison camps, is diagnosed with tuberculosis and is sent to a renowned sanatorium in the Laurentian Mountains. He meets and falls in love with a more assimilated woman who grew up in Canada. He marries her, but he's haunted by doubts about her fidelity because of her worldly nature. In the twilight of his life, he finds salvation and redemption on the Israeli fortress at Masada. Professor Boyarsky, the father of 13 children, is the author of 9 novels and 36 short stories. He's also professor of mathematics and statistics at Concordia University in Montreal. In 1989, he founded a CEGEP, a pre-university college with the goal of offering Hasidic men a secular education, and he owns a hotel. Where does he find the time? Professor Boyarsky will read from his book, Through Shadows Slow, and then I will have a conversation with him about his book and his life as a writer. Professor Boyarsky, how does it feel to you to win this award? What does it mean for you?
I feel honored and grateful for the recognition, but another feeling also enters my thoughts. I'm reminded of our pediatrician when our children were growing up. His doctor married late in life, and his children also married late in life. So by the time he was a grandfather, he was already in his 80s. And he would say to us, "I'm too old to be a grandfather." We found that rather funny. Of course, you can never be too old to be a grandfather. In some sense, I feel I'm a little bit old for this award, but of course, I'm happy to receive it.
I summarized the book early on in my introduction to you, but I'm wondering if you could summarize it by telling me what themes you were trying to bring out, what the inside look, the meaning of the book is for you and for the readers who are going to be reading this.
Okay, perhaps I'll give a brief outline of the storyline. Daniel, the twilight of his life, comes to Israel to make peace with his wife, to forgive her for her supposed infidelities. They still rankle within him. But by some turn of events, Daniel finally discovers the truth and is still challenged to release his deep-rooted false beliefs in her. He only accomplishes that later when he climbs Masada. So, I mean, the novel is about how little incidents in life can blow up to become major issues. This reminds me of the butterfly effect in the mathematical subject that I study, chaos theory, where a butterfly fluttering its wings in Tokyo, Japan, causes a hurricane in Florida 4 or 5 days later. This is called nonlinear effects, where little things become amplified to the point that they become catastrophic. I tried to capture that in a literary way in this novel, where a little glimpse on the beach by Daniel, which leads him to suspect her, becomes paramount in his life. It affects him and the family that he started in a very dramatic way. He's convinced of what he saw, doesn't even ask for explanations, and leads his life like that. And until the very end, he finds out the truth.
Is that sort of the Jewish theme, the theme of redemption?
Yes, but redemption from himself, from his own predisposition to judge her very unfavorably. And this takes him a long time to overcome.
Now, you've written a number of books, and I've read some of them, and this one is different than the other books that you've written. And I'm wondering what the process of writing this book was like. Was it different than the other books that you've written, the stories you've written?
This was difficult, this one. All the other ones proceed in a chronological order. This one starts at the end virtually. I've always wanted to start a book on page 196 and have the feeling right away that I've already written half the book, and then the rest goes downstream. And so this book starts at the end, briefly in Jerusalem, and then the middle part, which is the long part, takes place in the north in the early 50s. A lot of survivors came in the summers to meet there, and that's the setting for the novel, the main setting. Then at the end, we return to Jerusalem and his climb to Masada. So it's structurally different. I must confess I had a lot of difficulty in structuring it, and I did have crucial input from former editor, Ed Carson. He sort of helped me organize the material in a way that it all fell into place.
You've had a very full life. And how did you find time to write this book? You do so many things. You're a professor of mathematics. You started a CEGEP. You're really involved in your spiritual life. You have 13 children. How do you ever have the time to write a novel?
Just I'll show you something. This is a book I wrote in 1997. It's called The Laws of Chaos. I live a life of chaos, but there are laws behind them. So my days are structured. I take a lot of notes during the school year when I'm teaching and doing research. And I reserve writing time for the summer. We have a country place north of Montreal, also in the Laurentians. And that's when I write. I write intensely, and I write perhaps 10 hours a day during the summer months. And it takes me 4 or 5 summers to complete a novel. So.
And finally, I'd like to address the people who are going to be reading the book. What's in it for them? How do you expect they would react to it? And also within your own Hasidic community, how are they going to respond to a story that is in a lot of ways secular?
Fortunately for me, most people in the Hasidic community don't read novels. They don't read literature. Otherwise, I'd probably be excommunicated, put into cherem. I don't know. That's the word for it. So, and I don't. Most people don't even know that I write. I do write checkbooks for them to some extent, but I don't. They don't think. They don't know that I write novels. So I'm happy for that. What can the reader get out of this? Be careful with the little things in your life. Give another person a second chance. Don't make judgments until you're absolutely sure. The main character of the novel was absolutely convinced of something that he had only glimpsed in the darkness. Really, that's what happened. But I guess his war experience predisposed him for such an outlook that he could not forget and he could not forgive, even in the face of certain facts. I suppose that's what bias is all about. And it took him a long, long time to really forgive and forget and to start his own life over again at an old age.
Could you give us a taste, Professor Boyarsky? Could you read something from your book?
Yes, I will. Thank you. Gila and Daniel, the 2 main characters of the book, had one son whose name is Benjamin. How I worried over every detail of the boy's life, never explaining to him the demons that controlled my actions. I would virtually force feed Benjamin, as if by feeding him, I was feeding the starving children I had seen succumb in the camps. By any logic, Benjamin should have grown into a neurotic adult, not the unruffled eye surgeon and happily married family man he has become. He is definitely your son. As Benjamin grew older, his features confirmed my worst fears, that I was not in his genes. I see Benjamin, a toddler with a red hat and large white bonbon on top, as I trundle him through the autumn streets of Saint Agathe. He points to the sky with its myriad of little disjoint white clouds and cries out perceptively, "Puzzle, puzzle." The special bond between you and him was never more apparent to me than on a day in October when Benjamin was 4 years old. You're sitting on a bench while Benjamin climbs to the top of a slide in the playground on Fletcher's Field. You throw an imaginary rope to him, which he catches laughingly. Then you slowly pull the rope toward you, one hand after the other, while Benjamin holds the other end with both hands, allowing himself to be drawn down the slide by the invisible rope between mother and son. I watch enviously from a distance. I wanted to be that rope, to join your friendship. I know you would have allowed it, but I was afraid to love.
Thank you, Professor Boyarsky.
Thank you.